Yeah, guys, I'm glad to see you too.
When people online told me that Siberian Mayhem was a better experience than Serious SAM4, I had my share of suspicion in those claims, but it appears that Timelock Studio has done what many thought was impossible, which is to put out a standalone title that is better than Croteam's own Serious SAM4. And it almost pained me to write that, as is evident in my last video. I love Serious SAM4 and considered it to be mostly a huge success. And with so many reviewers roasting Serious SAM4, I still have no idea why it's not more popular. I could agree with the criticisms that the technical performance was pretty shit. At least based on my own experiences with Serious SAM4 on the PS5, I could recognize that the console was struggling. But for the most part, in its current state, it runs quite well and only dips in areas with the most detail and or the most carnage. Not sure how it fares on PC, but I assume people with current rigs can at least run it as well as my PS5. That all being said, Serious SAM4 was an overall fun-fueled adventure, and I honestly could not agree less with the other review scores. That's why, when everyone played Siberian Mayhem and it was incredibly fun and seemingly better optimized, the reviews mostly proclaimed, Serious Sam is good again, when in reality the games have always been good if you can look past the technical issues or perhaps even wait out the metaphorical storm of patches and updates. I say all of this just as context for why I absolutely love Siberian Mayhem and why I can highly recommend it, which is a good thing since, as just stated, I loved SAM4, whereas lots of people didn't. So for a lover to say it's an even better game should reinforce how fantastic Siberian Mayhem actually is. To end the introduction, I'd just like to thank the SAM community for really making it clear I had to play this ASAP. Like, it was the thing I had to play. Like, I pushed everything else to the side to play this because it's so fucking fun. So I gotta begin by explaining that even if meaning in the event that, or on condition that, Siberian Mayhem didn't go above and beyond and just delivered a run-of-the-mill disposable map pack expansion, it would still be a good expansion because the foundation and gameplay groundwork has already been done with the creation of Serious SAM4. But instead of just putting out a forgettable map pack, the brilliant folks over at Timelock Studios have added a ton of fun elements to enhance the already dangerously high levels of fun gameplay. Like with the weapons in the game, they have either replaced or added to the arsenal, and every change that they have made is seemingly for the better. The assault rifle from Serious SAM4 that sounded too weak and had bad recoil, replaced it with the world's favorite assault rifle, the AK-47, a 74 MX. This AK is one of the best AKs I've ever used in video games, period. First of all, the sound it makes alone is enough to command instant respect, and the overall feel and versatility of the gun is justifiably perfect. The recoil has been fixed too, with it being easily manageable due to a slight spread recoil instead of the jerky, annoying recoil of Serious SAM4's AR. They did end up taking away one of Serious SAM4's best guns, though, that being the flaming rocket-propelled chainsaw launcher, and this might have been an issue to some if they didn't substitute in the TCC-2 Piran Crossbow. I assume this is most people's favorite weapon. It has the precision of a railgun, and it might as well be a railgun since this thing apparently shoots out electrically charged bolts that will penetrate multiple enemies with your back up against the wall. Anyway, if this thing were any stronger, I would call it OP, because as of right now, the thing can jib most low-tier enemies in a single hit, and for the larger enemies, I think the most it took was 4 or 5 bolts to trigger an explosion. Also, for slightly unnecessary yet added precision, this crossbow is blessed with a killer scope, making it ideal for replacing the sniper in your arsenal. Dual-wielding these babies will cost you the use of the scope, but repay you exponentially with a second crossbow to go nuts with. And potentially replacing the XL2 laser gun is what else but the XPMR burner ray gun, emphasis on the burn. Dear God, never in my wildest dreams did I think a laser gun could be topped as the go-to sci-fi weapon in Serious Sam, but here we are. The burner ray gun shoots a beam, or ray, of fire at an enemy and then constantly deals damage until the enemy is hot enough to explode. This process happens extremely quick and can turn weak enemies into red mist with a passing graze. With bigger enemies, they absorb a bit more heat and turn bright orange before inevitably exploding. I love this gun. It can trivialize even the toughest of scenarios you find yourself in, including even boss fights. But that's if you avoid using it on Reggie enemies, because ammo doesn't regenerate, so use wisely. Other guns that were left in the game and still function the same are the pistols, the knives, the single shotty, the double barrel shotty, the rocket launcher, the grenade launcher, the cannon, C4, and of course the minigun. I would say this Siberian Mayhem variety of guns outshines the Serious SAM4 collection of guns, and I know it's not a contest, but Timelock definitely know how to design some satisfying fucking weapons. Using the dual ray guns is probably one of the best gaming experiences I've ever had. It's so overwhelmingly powerful and satisfying to use. It's like the microwave beam on the plasma gun in Doom, except this one's better because you don't just stand around like an asshole waiting to take damage while you're using it. It's great stuff. They also know what wacky shit will improve the game, all in the name of and for the sake of fun. While playing, I was not expecting any new gadgets at all, and yet I was met with a couple fun, fresh surprises. One being the TACT Topographic Artillery Call Targeter, aka the Tactical Airstrike, which is fantastic. You just point it in the direction you're angry, and explosives start raining down. I found this extremely useful for any time you hear headless kamikazes, as this will thin the herd, giving you time to breathe and strategize. Another unexpected gadget was the hoverboard scooter turret. I don't know if this thing was inspired by Back to the Future, Halo, or even the Skynet future war scenes of Terminator, but it looks like it could have come from any of them. This thing is fast, it's fun to operate, and with its 2 laser guns on the front, it's actually quite a strong gadget. It might be the best controlling vehicle in the game. Due to the hovering nature, it doesn't have to waste time spinning wheels and turning. The hoverboard runs on some kind of finite electric energy, though, which depletes whether you're moving or shooting, and depletes even faster if you do both at the same time. Still an amazing gadget that is also a weapon and vehicle. And speaking of the vehicles in Siberian Mayhem, it seems they certainly wanted to improve on the frankly lacking vehicles of Serious SAM4. I mean, don't get me wrong, I could go combine harvesting motherfuckers all day long and still be ready to roll through France. But given the new forms of transport in the game, it has to be said these are some great additions. Starting with the absolute best of the best, we have the Airport Baggage Carrier, which is by far the slowest, hardest to control piece of shit I've ever lied about being the best of the best. Moving on up through, we have the Quad, since it's quite fast and small enough to make some tight corners. Better yet is still the bitchin' snowmobile that we only got a visual teaser of back in Serious SAM4. Well, it's here now, baby, and it's brilliant. It's like a slightly faster, better controlling quad that's on tracks and skis. And now it's a straight up tie on which vehicle is the best, because while I did think they'd reintroduce the mech from SAM4, I had no idea they would give it a chainsaw arm upgrade.
A giant robotic chainsaw arm.
It also still has devastating rockets and a slick boost maneuver, but if we're mentioning the best vehicle in the game, and I mean the very best, standing head and shoulders above the rest, I gotta mention the tank. The tank is one vehicle that just works in a SAM game. I mean, you're Serious Sam, you're in Siberia, it would be more weird if there wasn't any tanks. So as far as firepower is concerned, this is one of the most powerful entities in the game. Only slight downside though is the movement controls, because outside of the boost capabilities, driving this thing is complete shit. That could just be me having the IQ of a watermelon with a face drawn on it, but I was pretty embarrassed sometimes realizing how long I'd been driving in reverse, or with the oscillating turret pointed in the complete wrong direction. But what are you gonna do? I should also mention that they still have the SAM perk point that allows you to ride certain enemies, so if that's your preferred mode of transport, I don't know why, but there's still that option for you. The boss fights in Siberian Mayhem were definitely a bright light in a game full of highlights. If that sounded obtuse, it just means that they were very good. They were all memorable for a variety of reasons, including each of the settings were unique and seemed handcrafted just for that boss fight, and not just thrown in randomly. Like the Cryo Yeti twins you end up finding and fighting in a gorgeous Dark Souls Crystal Cave style inspired Crystal Cave. And then for the chicken hut, the atmosphere is all dark, creepy, and underpinned with Polish folklore. Aside from the visual memorability, there's a handful of other elements helping each one stand out, like the ice cave having slippery ice physics, making you have to think more about your momentum and movement while still keeping tabs on two quick-ass giant bosses. In other fights, there could be traps that you have to utilize, much like in the survival maps, or even just additional tsunami waves of enemies literally flying at you, or hitting a bounce pad and being launched at you. What I'm saying is the game is constantly tweaking and switching things that you already got familiar with in SAM4. And with that previously mentioned foundation being shaken up, it leads to many, many unforgettable moments in the admittedly short game. More about the length later on. But, while still on the subject of adversaries, I'd love to shout out some of Mental's horde that seem to only want to seek residence in Siberia for some reason. In no particular order, we got the Eludrian Micro Hopper. Based on the name of these things, I would believe I would be correct in assuming that they are the tadpole-like stage of what eventually becomes the adult Eludrian Reptiloid. These guys bounce around erratically, and I'm pretty sure I killed about 50% of them just by accident, but what are you gonna do? The Octanian Grenadier is another low-tier enemy disguised as a confident low-tier enemy. Next up is the Draconian Burner, which is somewhat like a reskin of the Draconian Pyro, but this one uses the new burner ray guns for maximum carnage and instant disrespect. These fuckers are just as fun to kill as they are annoying to take down. Especially better if you shoot one of them in midair. That shit is just fantastic. Moving on, we have the Octanian Legionnaire, which is great because I love the Octanian Zealot in Serious SAM4, and this is just the same dude but with a big shield, further incentivizing you to make sure you inflict the most damage possible with his back turned. I think the last new enemy is more of an enemy installation, because it is the Octanian Sentry Tower. When spotted by these things, they sound a big alert horn, which sounds like those loud, bassy horns from cinematic experiences such as one of the Cloverfield movies, and I think they used it in Playdead's Inside. Regardless, it sounds like instant doom, and before you know it, there's bombs dropping. And then to disable these towers, you have to shoot off the two side wings, which will then allow the center to open, exposing its rotten Icon of Sin-styled bullseye target. These towers are sometimes in hard or impossible to reach spots, and you have to try to disable the tower while dozens of enemies are also chasing you, and it can get quite hectic. I kind of wish there was more environmental threats like this in the game, since it really forces you to switch up your strategy. There is some new characters teamed up with Sam this time around, and to the absolute surprise of nobody, Sam's team for this game all consists of the most cliche Russian names ever, including Ivan, Olga, Igor, Vlad, Dmitri, and Natasha. I was slightly disappointed in this, as I would have bet my own life on there being an Alexei in the group, but either way, every one of Sam's allies are all fun and silly with the occasional laugh-out-loud moment, but I will say this game got sufficiently less laughs from me than Serious SAM4 did. You could chalk that up to the length or the writing or anything really. I'm just informing of something worth mentioning because I found Serious SAM4 to be quite refreshingly funny. Anyway, the characters are fun if slightly forgettable. It's not a big deal anyway, since the best moments in the game are when you, Sam Stone, are on your own fighting against all odds, solo. I won't spoil any of the story here, since the game isn't that long and I'd hate to spoil a portion of it for anyone intending to play, but to help give context to the levels, basically, the Siberian Mayhem game takes place between the oil rig level and the Tunguska event level of Serious SAM4, where Sam is pursuing General Howard Brand, which kind of gives background as to why you have certain guns and perks already at the beginning, but the 5 large levels you get to visit during this Russian excursion have included in them from rocky beaches to comms towers, small villages to snowy expanses, Siberian tundras to abandoned refineries, from train yards to creepy churches, and finally everyone's favorite kind of level, a dam.
I'm telling you, I didn't do anything.
I don't care.
There's much more than I listed here, but I don't want to spoil some of the more fun, wacky zones that they pack into this 5-level campaign. And did I mention each level takes about an hour to complete? At least it did for me on medium, give or take 5 to 10 minutes. But on average, each level is about an hour, and that includes exploration and side missions. I didn't 100% the game yet, but I've replayed the full campaign already and screwed around on the survival maps more here than in Serious SAM4. I was quite impressed that Timelock Studios managed to double the amount of survival maps for this standalone game. To be honest, I was quite sad to only see 3 survival maps in Serious SAM4, since the gameplay is so good, but it seems Timelock's got us covered, and each survival map has a gimmick this time, whether it be with a tank or environmentally triggered assistance. They sure do spice up an already spicy gameplay loop. And on top of that, there's tons of reasons to explore during missions, which all lead to unique instances, including enemy encounters, secret stashes, secret traps, pipe dream puzzles, shipping and receiving minigames, and most definitely many more my drug-addled brain stubbornly cannot recall. The sounds in the game are all fantastic and completely fix the problems I had with Serious SAM4's light-sounding AR and auto-shotty. The guns, the enemies, the jibbing impact, everything sounds fantastic here, and you still get that amazing panic sensation when you hear directionarily where the headless kamikazes are coming from and how close they actually are. The new music, oh my god, the new music is just as good as any other SAM soundtrack, and always, for me, the standout moments tend to be when things get heavy and when there's metal riffs, pounding drums, and even that sweet, sweet choir backup while somebody shreds. Songs like Crime and Punishment, Reg, Nar, Rock, and Freedom 2 are prime examples of fun, heavy songs that I might potentially listen to outside of the game. All around fantastic work on all the audio in the game. Last to address are the technical performance and if it's better than Serious SAM4. And when it came to their performance, I personally found on the PS5 that the game ran at 60 FPS in most spots, with the obvious slight drops during super crazy encounters or areas with tons of detail. But I have heard that levels of detail had been scaled down a bit for better optimization in Siberian Mayhem. And so yeah, the performance mode ran quite good, especially considering how good the game looks and the aforementioned carnage. So yeah, no real complaints for performance, except that on multiple occasions, the game would hard freeze in the same spot on the enemy index Natrixa page. I stopped going to that portion of the menu, but it's still a problem that I hope gets fixed. But to actually address the last thing, the serious thing, the real thing that we all came here to see, is this game better than Serious SAM4, and should you still play it in 2024? Well, based on the fun factor relative to the length of the experience, this is an absolute must-play, full MSRP or not. Since it's only 5 levels compared to Sam's 15 missions, it's hard to say if it's better based on the different weapons, vehicles, and gadgets available in each game, and I would say it's definitely down to preference. Siberian Mayhem is brilliant because of how deep and fun it is despite its only roughly 5 to 6 hour campaign. But that's only a minimum because it is literally so fun you'll play it again and again, and then screw around with survival mode, and then possibly play it with friends in multiplayer. But SAM4 is still brilliant, and for others they will prefer the longer campaign with the originally envisioned arsenal, and in my opinion, funnier characters. But yes, Siberian Mayhem was an absolutely fantastic experience. I would play it again, I will play it again, and I would personally say I enjoyed it more per square capita, if that makes sense, than Serious SAM4. But regardless, as I said, it's a must-play, and come on now, Croteam, it's time to put Serious SAM4 plus Siberian Mayhem on a disc collection, put it out physically, get that going, everybody will be happy. And lastly, just gotta say major shout out to all the viewers and commenters on my last 2 SAM videos. You guys are amazing, I love hearing what you all have to say, and thank you so much for making me play this sooner rather than later, because I have had a fantastic time. Look forward to my next couple videos coming soon. Thanks again for watching. Take it easy.